Hi, dear ones. Reverend Beth Simmons here with your midweek moment. I am outside because, in addition to the normal everyday cacophony of children in my house and dog and everything else, we have a plumber here doing work, so it's very noisy. There's lots of banging and tools and conversation happening. So I'm out here because it's not totally freezing. The goats are going to join in. And I have positioned myself so that if you get bored with what I'm saying, you can just watch the birds behind me, who I've been really enjoying. Looks like they've really emptied the bird feeder today, so I'll have to refill it. But I am taking some much needed deep breaths, getting some fresh air. It is still beautiful from our snowfall the other day. Usually when the snow coats the trees like this, it's gone within the next day or so. But we haven't really had any wind to knock it off, which is probably good because it probably would have caused more power outages. So I'm just enjoying the beauty. I had a hard day yesterday and first thing this morning. No reason in particular, but I'm someone who wrestles with or lives with anxiety and other neuro and mental divergence and spiciness. And I think last week was just a incredibly busy week, and I worked more than the hours that I typically do. And I had to travel to Maine for a funeral, and it was just a lot. And I think I was in spoon debt. Not only used all my spoons, but was in spoon debt. If you know the sort of theory of spoons. So I think my body and my brain were trying to catch up. But it made me think about a video I saw recently from an Instagram person on Instagram. I don't want to call him an influencer. He's a librarian. He works for a library, and he is probably the most popular librarian on the interwebs. His name is Michael, and he is so kind and so thoughtful, and he shares stories about the library people he encounters. And one of them was about a little kid who comes in every day and goes, mental health check. And he says it back because that's something that he does. He also struggles or lives with anxiety and other spiciness, mental spiciness, and is very forthright about how that affects him. And so he often will do mental health check and check in on other people, and has other people do that for him as well to see where they're at each day. And so this particular library kid, their library grown up, said, hey, sometime you're gonna have to know what that means. And so this librarian explained in really simple, developmentally appropriate terms for this library kid, what anxiety feels like for him, what he means when he says mental health check. And one of the things he said was that it's okay to bring your anxiety to the library. Your anxiety is welcome at the library. And very often when he has his videos, I think, my gosh, this is what church should be like. The library, at least the way he does the library, is what church should be like. And that was certainly one of those things. Because somehow, and I don't know if this is a new thing or if it's been this way forever, church has become a place where you come when you're already okay. And it becomes a social thing, and so you got to be ready for socialization, for socializing. And if you're not in a place where you want to do that, you don't go to church. Or if you're not really okay. I know that there are those who stay away from church and from worship when they're not feeling well mentally, emotionally, when things are hard in their life, and they come back when they feel better. And I mean, that's fine if that's what you need to do, right, for yourself. But I'm remembering being at a church, one of my calls, and one of the members had a significant loss in his significant sudden tragic loss of a family member, and it was, sometime in the middle of the week, Wednesday or Thursday, and he was in church on Sunday morning. And when people asked him, like, "Oh, I'm so glad to see you. I can't believe you're here," his response was, "Where else would I be?" That was the place. That was the only place that could hold the depth of his grief and pain. That's what church should be. So if you are a person who lives with, wrestles with, struggles with, embraces the anxiety, depression, neurospiciness, however you want to phrase it, diversity of mental, emotional, neurological health and wellness and limitations, and you feel sometimes like those are not welcome, or you are not welcome in your true full self, in those moments, particularly when those things are manifesting themselves more fully. I hope you find a place where that's not the case. I hope if you are in Hancock and you come to our church, or you have thought about coming to our church, that you feel like our church is a place like that. And if it's not, if you feel like it's not a place where you can bring your anxiety with you to church, please reach out and talk to me, because I want to make it a place where we can come and we can bring our anxiety and our depression and our OCD and our autism and our ADHD and our whatever, all the things, with us, and not tuck them away and hide them in a pocket somewhere and put on a mask to be to seem fine, to seem okay when we're not okay. And that goes for more temporary things like grief and pain and loss and fear and struggle and stress and all the things that are more what we think of as more temporary. Bring them with you to church. Bring them with you. Because, one of the things we say when we do our joys and concerns, or our celebrations and concerns in our time for prayer, is that we share them with each other so that we can pray for and with each other, so that we can help carry one another's burdens and celebrate the high points with each other, because doing so helps make the hard stuff more bearable, and the easy stuff even more joyful. And I have noticed that when we pray in our congregation, and I don't know if it's, if you're not part of our congregation and you're watching this, if this is true, or if you even go to a church, but I have noticed that when we share our concerns and celebrations, very few people ask for prayers for themselves. They might pray, they might ask for prayers in a situation that is concerning them in the world. So for, if they're worried about a particular war, conflict, or disaster, or they have a friend or their spouse or a other family member, or even a pet who is in need of extra prayers, they're struggling, they're ill. There's often sharing of those kinds of things. Very rarely, if ever, have I had people during those times say, "I'm having a really hard time and I need prayers." Even if it's just that, even without an explanation of what that hard time is, just to say, "I would appreciate prayer." And perhaps it's because I'm new and there's not that level of trust yet. But I would hope that church, if nowhere else, is a place where we can be vulnerable in those moments where we can say, I'm having a hard time. Because even if no one else knows what the hard time is or what it's about or what your struggles are, the intimate details of the stuff you tell your therapist, which is great. That's where you should share that stuff, is with your therapist or your professionals. But just to know someone is holding you, many people are holding you when they turn to God and open their hearts and say, God, here's who's on my heart today. Surround them with an extra love. Let them know how loved they are, and that people are thinking of them and loving them and praying for their healing, whatever form that takes. Wow, that's powerful. And if someone in your church asks for prayers in that very vague way, you don't necessarily need to ask them what it's about, but it's totally fine maybe to go up to them and say, you know what? Hey, thanks for sharing that. I will absolutely be holding you in prayer. And let me know if I can do anything else, if you're available to offer some kind of other support. But if not, thoughts and prayers are not always such a bad thing, you know? But anyway, that's my reflection for this midweek moment. So if you're going to join us, we've got a special service on Sunday where we're going to be celebrating Candlemas and Imbolc and St. Bridget's Day, which all fall on the next couple days, February 1st and 2nd. So Sundays are honoring of that, those things. And it's going to be a little experimental, a little different kind of service. So be prepared and be excited. It's going to be fun. And Ash Wednesday is coming up on February 14th. So have that in your calendar as we enter into the time of Lent and Candlemas, folks, means that we're crossing the threshold, and all this snowy beautifulness is, we only have 6-ish weeks left to go. All right, officially 6 weeks left of winter after this. We're halfway through. Of course, we know we're in New England. March 20th does not, very rarely marks the actual end of winter. But it's coming. The days are getting longer. And you are welcome. At least in our church. You, all of you. So I hope you show up. Just as you are. And I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day and have a wonderful rest of your week. And I'm just going to try to zoom in real quick as we end today, and so you can get a little bit more better glimpse of these feathered friends behind me. Bye, everyone.